How you doing, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wilde's Mailbox here at ESPNMilwaukee.com and ESPNMadison.com. It's been a while, but we've only got one question for tonight, and that's because it's a very timely question indeed. It comes from Rob, who wonders, Jason, what do you think of what the Packers have done in free agency so far? Well, if you think that the Packers haven't signed an outside free agent, you are wrong, because today they signed Charles Dillon. And I know you love yourself some Charles Dillon. And who is Charles Dillon, you might ask? Charles Dillon played in the Arena Football League last year. He played at Washington State in college. He is a wide receiver who spent time in the Indianapolis Colts training camp in 2008. Not last year, but 2008. So the Packers are on the board, on the free agent board. He's considered a street free agent. He's not considered an unrestricted or restricted free agent, though, so it really still doesn't count. But that's not what Rob's question, I'm sure, was referring to. Rob's question, of course, referring to what's happened so far with Aaron Campman going to the Jacksonville Jaguars and Chad Clifton coming back to the Packers. And we'll start with Clifton first. Obviously, the Packers were in a position here where they needed to get him back because they don't have a replacement at the ready for him. And so they were kind of over a barrel in terms of, Chad Clifton was able to use, or more accurately, his agent Jimmy Sexton was able to use the Washington Redskins to help increase that offer and get him the 3-year, $20 million deal that he was looking for. Although still, I didn't think the money up front, which is about $7.5 million guaranteed for 2010, was all that unrealistic. As for Campman, I don't think money was an object there. He was not coming back to Green Bay to play in a 3-4 scheme. I don't think the Packers, even if they'd have outbid with Julius Peppers type money, as I wrote about after Campman's press conference in Jacksonville on Monday, I don't think that would have even been enough. He was clearly miserable in that scheme and had no interest, even though the Packers made an offer to him, as he said during his press conference with the Jaguars. I don't think he had any interest in coming back. And to me, that's the point of maybe the criticism that should be levied at Ted Thompson by fans. I know fans criticize him a lot, and sometimes most of the time I probably defend him, but on these 2 points, I think that there's some worthwhile and fair criticism to be made. One, that they don't have on their roster currently their left tackle of the future. They liked Jamon Meredith. I know the Buffalo Bills really liked Jamon Meredith, but they lost him off their practice squad. They weren't able to keep him when the Bills came calling, and they didn't mind when the Bills took Brian Brown, but I think they may end up minding that Jamon Meredith went elsewhere. And then the thing with Campman, a lot of people, including our friend Homer, have been criticizing the Packers for not trading him last offseason, at the draft, maybe at the trading deadline in October. And I think that that's a valid criticism. It seems to me that the Packers deluded themselves into believing that this guy was going to be successful in the 3-4. And I understand that pass rushers do not grow on trees. You don't want to give up a guy who had 37 sacks over a 3-year span, the third most during that period behind DeMarcus Ware and Jared Allen. But I think it became pretty clear pretty quickly that he was going to struggle in the 3-4. And clearly the Packers hadn't decided or hadn't recognized or hadn't admitted that he couldn't have success in the 3-4. They offered him a contract. They wanted him back. Maybe they should have been a little more realistic. I think that's the only criticism to be made there. So that's my take on free agency so far. I'm anxious to see what they do with Mark Tauscher. I think that's really the next big question. We know that Nick Collins has signed his tender. I just finished writing about that for the site. The restricted free agents aren't that big of the story at this point, though. I think the big story next will be, do they keep Tauscher, and is there a player or two that maybe gets the Packers' attention on the market, and maybe we see, now that Ted Thompson has sat out the first weekend of free agency, maybe we see some action. Remember, you can send your questions either via Twitter, if you can get them to 140 characters or less, or via email to jwilde@espnwisconsin.com, and we'll see you next time.